So far in this final season of Fear the Walking Dead, we've had many characters make shocking returns, but in this latest episode, it's the reappearance of an old location that becomes central focus as Dwight returns to the Sanctuary. The last time we saw Dwight was when him and Sherry were going their separate ways after coming to terms with the fact that their son Finch had died. So here we find Dwight back in his old house, and some guy called Jay comes up to him saying that someone's stolen his insulin and whether he can help him get it back, and those people happen to be in the Sanctuary. Now Dwight does call out how much of a coincidence this is, considering when he first went to the Sanctuary, that was on the back of trying to find insulin himself, so it's all coming back around. After a brief chat with Jay, he decides to help him out and go into the Sanctuary and get the insulin. Now the thing is, this is all a load of nonsense really. I mean, what's the chance of this? Some guy looking for the same thing he was looking for before, and of course it happens to be in the Sanctuary. I mean, we're really having to stretch a lot here, and that's only the first few scenes of the episode. What I will say though, is when we go into the Sanctuary, Dwight gets all his memories back of Negan, the furnace, and everything which happened to him. And with the character of Dwight, I've always enjoyed him as a character, but he's someone who's never really reached his full potential, and maybe never will. I mean, whether he survives, we'll have to wait and see, and whether he can go into the spin-offs or not. Because I think he's a good character to have for those sort of shows, because he has got a lot of layers to him. He's one of the characters in this show especially, which I actually care about a little bit, and it was enjoyable to see him just be on his own for a little bit. And I wouldn't mind it if we did have a whole episode with Dwight just going about his life really, and going to the Sanctuary maybe on his own, because later in the episode we do get to see Sherry, June and Dove. But I think that was a big issue with the episode really, because by trying to tie it all back to the Padre storyline and Troy, and it's just a bit of a mess with all that. And I think I'd have much more enjoyed an episode where it's just focused on Dwight. I know it's completely different from the whole rest of the season, it's as its own thing, as its own episode, but as we've seen before, this season's pretty crap. Anyway, Dwight eventually finds the insulin, and while he's looking into the furnace, one of the guards finds him, and they have a little standoff, and as some other men start to come around the corner, Dwight has to take a drastic action, and that is by throwing the guy into the furnace. Dwight gets back to the house, but it's all too late as Jay has turned into a walker. In this moment, Dwight is at a very low point as he's yelling things like, "You should have killed me when you had the chance, Daryl," linking back to when Daryl told him to go out there and make it right. He also says things like, "Please, please do it now." He's really begging for death. That is until though when Sherry, June and Dove arrive as they come to ask him for help in the fight for Padre. The reason they want Dwight for this fight is because apparently at Padre the kids were really trusting of him more than anyone else. Dwight doesn't want to do that. He questions a lot of what's going on here, a bit like what you would as the audience, like, why are you here? Why are you doing this fight? What is going on? Why is this all happening? It doesn't make any sense. They tell Dwight they need him in the fight against Troy's army, and this is all to get Padre. Now the things with Padre, it's a very secure base, it's a good place for a community to build going forward in the future. The thing is, what I'd say is that why was there no real mention of checking out Alexandria and the other communities which used to be there from their own knowing? Like, why don't they go there and have a look? I mean, they could be great allies in this fight, and knowing that there's kids involved would be a great thing to start with as well. They're showing that this is somewhere they can grow the future. While Dwight speaks to Sherry, he's resigned to the fact that they'll be better off without him, because everywhere he goes, he leaves a path of destruction, and that includes, of course, their son Finch. He also says that the place Padre is the reason that he's dead in the first place, so asks, why would you want to fight for that? And Sherry explains that maybe something good can come from something bad, and that gets used quite a lot throughout this episode. I think it's quite a basic thing to say. I get the whole term about it, but they could have used something else to get this across. It just seems so standard to say, yeah, good can come from something bad, blah blah blah. It's just, is that all you got? To the next day, and we find out that Dove took the truck at night because some thieves are trying to steal it, and actually returning we see that she got injured with a bullet. Why Dove's here in the first place, they do briefly explain, but it's another one of those stretches which you have to just believe. At the end of the episode they do reveal her real name, but I don't understand why it had to wait until then for that to happen, because this whole time, that whole travelling, they never thought to be like, what's your name? Let's just call you by your real name, instead of this whole bird person nonsense. Anyway, it turns out the thieves who are trying to take the truck are also those people who are looking for someone who burned their friend. I wonder who that could be. This group approach the truck and offer a trade that if Dwight gives himself over, they will treat Dove at the sanctuary. Sherry opens fire and they all escape in the truck, and as the sanctuary is 20 miles away, they say that they can get there, do the surgery and be gone all before these men come back, as they have been walking on foot. They get to the sanctuary and Sherry guns down a guard, which happens to be the only guard there. With this gunshot, it attracts loads of walkers, and these walkers are so bloody powerful apparently, they're shaking and destroying the sanctuary. Which means when they come to do the surgery, it's a bit of an issue with everything shaking about. But then I thought to myself, why don't we just not do it here? Why don't we go somewhere else? I mean, you got all the stuff, go. Especially as it'd be safer considering there's people coming back here who will be coming to kill you. Now this whole surgery could be done much quicker if June was able to perform it, but she keeps saying that she can't, and the camera keeps going to her hand, which is bandaged up still after her losing a finger by Shrike. Dwight says he's going to fend off the walkers, but Sherry thinks he has another idea in mind, especially considering how depressed he was the night before. More and more walkers come and it starts to feel like a bloody earthquake there, which I think is a bit stupid. I mean, I know the building is not the most stable, but there's not that many walkers compared to the other ones we've seen in the past, and this place is shaking like nuts. As Sherry understands that Dwight has very little worth for his life, she locks him in a room, and so she goes outside to take on some walkers. She's walking backwards at one point, a fence falls on top of her. It all turns out pretty badly. While this is all happening, June confesses to Dove that the reasons she's been hesitant is because of the people she's failed in the past, and that includes her daughter Rose. And I gotta say with June, I wouldn't be surprised if they kill her off, because we've seen a lot of her story already, and she has had moments for most of the characters, so if she was to die, it would affect a wider range of people. It wouldn't be a Fear the Walking Dead episode without some walkie-talkie action, as Sherry radios to June that she locked Dwight in the room. Thanks to this, Dwight is freed and is able to come to Sherry's rescue as she's under the fence. The men from earlier return and open fire, and I'm pretty sure one of them said something like, "Oh, I thought we'd see you here." And I thought to myself, well yeah, it's your base where the medical supplies are, so of course they're going to be there. I mean, like I said earlier, they probably should have left, but you know, out of anywhere, where else are they going to be? Like, as they chase them inside, they try and get through this door with all the walkers, and they get kind of torn apart, and I'm like going through a crowd of walkers desperate to get these people. I'm like, is it really that important to risk your life just to get these people? Like, to run through this really small door and get destroyed by walkers? I mean, I have no idea what's going on here, but it's all really stupid.
Not a great plan.
Anyway, the sanctuary is all coming apart, it's collapsing, and so Dwight has the idea to hide out with everybody in the furnace. The leader of that group, Marty, does try to attack Dwight, but he grabs a nearby iron and slams it into his face. His mate from earlier in walker form sinks his teeth into his throat, and later in the episode we see a piece of the building go into the both of them, and they turn into a nice walker kebab. While they're in the furnace, Sherry encourages June to save Dove, and then we get the stuff I mentioned earlier, you know, maybe something good can come from something bad. We just need to work through the bad to get to the good. You know, all the really fantastic stuff to really pull at the heartstrings there. After a while, they open up the door and they see that the sanctuary has fallen. This is where we learn that Dove is in fact called Odessa, and then we see them all go off together very happy, and we'll see them, I'm sure, in the next 3 episodes fighting the good fight. The episode ends though with Victor Strand talking to Tracy Otto, that's right, Troy's daughter, and says that I'm going to help you and you're going to help me. Help you do what? She says back to him, and he says, save Padre. As shown in the preview for the next episode, Tracy will get quite a big role in that one, with Madison and a lot of the other characters coming back into play, and whether we'll see any more hints about Alicia. I mean, it does show Tracy talking about Alicia being in the herd or whatever, but yeah, as I believe and many of you believe, I think it's all bollocks, and Alicia will come back at the end of the show. But yeah, overall this episode I thought was really disappointing. I think, like I said before, if they focused more on Dwight, it'd been much better. But this whole, bringing in, Dove and the injury and this group, which were a really stupid group, it all just made it into quite a boring episode. And yeah, just again, just another reason to just finish off something. You know, the Sanctuary's now fallen, that's now done. Let's tick that off. Like last time, Charlie stuff, we've ticked that off. It's just ticking boxes, getting this whole show done. It's like they don't really care. It's like someone told them, just get the show done. I don't care how you do it. Just throw a load of memory berries at it. Make people, you know, get happy about old characters returning and all that sort of thing. Drive that online conversation with all these big shocking twists or whatever. But none of it really matters because, you know, the Troy stuff, nothing matters because it's skipping to the good bit. You know, there's nothing gone before it, so it's all a hollow story that is very difficult to get invested in because of that. The writing truly is very bad, and it has been for some time. I mean, I'm here to talk about these episodes because, you know, I'm finishing the show like many of you, and I think some of you might be enjoying it, and fair play if you are, but I think a lot of us just sort of like, you know, we've been through 8 seasons, we've only got 3 episodes left, let's finish it, you know, why stop now, we've come this far. In these last 3 episodes, I've even seen it in some of the line delivery that these actors don't even believe it as well. It's like, you know, they're not stupid. They know when they're doing some really crappy show, and this is what it is. But at the end of the day, they're getting paid for it, and they're just doing their job. And that's the thing, the creative force of this show are just doing a job. And when that's the case, it means there's no passion there, and that filters throughout everything around it. So the fans aren't passionate about it, like myself. I mean, I want to be happy about watching something in the Walking Dead universe, but I can't be because it's so bad. I have to moan about it. You know, I like a good moan, but I don't want to do it all the time on a consistent basis. But when it is such bad quality, what else am I supposed to say? Anyway, that's 3 episodes down and 3 left to go. What are your thoughts on this episode? Let me know in the comments below. I do plan to cover more Walking Dead stuff in the future, and I also have some more movie and TV videos in the pipeline as well, which I hope you enjoy. But for now, if you fancy another video, on screen is one which YouTube have picked out just for you.